Why not?
Okay, hello, welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the Cosmos from independent validator teams. And as you can see, we are now into a weird Cold War with the beginning of the podcast. But on this week's episode, we are very, very excited because we have Sister and Shane from Stargate.
You've got technical issues, man.
I'm having technical issues.
Yeah.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah.
It's good now. It's good.
Well, now it's good. Yeah. Now that you've said I've got technical issues, it's fantastic.
Right. Okay. So it has cleared up the second that I've observed that there was a problem.
Yes.
That's computer programming for you, baby. Okay. So, yeah. Welcome, Shane. Welcome, Sisler. We're going to be talking about NFTs, obviously, and their respective platforms, and NFT interop, and lots of exciting things. If you have any questions as we get going, drop them in the chat on YouTube, and we'll pose them. We've got a few from Twitter as well, which we'll get onto. But first of all, we have our regular opening segment, which, Null, I know you've got lots of thoughts on this. Dumbest thing you've seen in the crypto this week. Would you like to go first?
No, I don't want to go first. I actually can't think of anything right now. I've been traveling all night.
Okay. Well, wait, I can volunteer something. I will volunteer that because of apparently completely misunderstanding how transitive Go dependencies work, we had to do a second security release last weekend after all of the fun we had with Juno last week. And that was, I think, largely down to me and some other folks. So that's the dumbest thing I've seen in crypto this week because I'm partly to blame for it. Jabby, do you want to go next?
I guess I forgot to enable a Cosmos Visor service once, and Contavo rebooted one of my servers, and I missed quite a few blocks on testnet. It was pretty dumb.
Was that this week?
That was earlier today.
Oh, right. Okay.
On Desmos testnet. Yeah.
I also saw a dodgy gen text from you as well. That was
yeah, that's pretty dumb of me.
What was that on?
Now it looks like I'm just kind of sledging. Now it looks like I'm just kind of sledging you, but yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
Hey. What network was that on?
Desmos testnet.
Oh, right. Oh, they're putting up another testnet, are they?
They've been running the same one for a while.
Oh, okay, cool. Schulte, dumbest thing you've seen, man?
I mean, I don't want to talk too much crap on myself, but I was jailed on Cosmos while I was out of power in Puerto Rico. So I'm not super proud about that, but I'm not going to throw that out as the worst thing or the dumbest thing that I've seen. And I'm currently writing a script for being able to refund everyone. 10,000 plus delegators, man. I'm starting to load up, create self-composed load balancers in order to get it going, and it's more of a task than you'd expect.
Did he just mute himself and then keep talking?
There's a lag on the video, I think.
Oh, okay. Right. Copy. Sisler, have you seen anything dumb in the Cosmos this week, man?
Yeah. Just, just us, where, we missed a few blocks on the recent upgrade, Stargaze upgrade, where, we installed and, did everything but didn't start the binary. I think that was what happened. So we missed a few blocks. It was pretty silly. And when I went to ping.pub, I saw that happen to a few other validators as well. And, we immediately notified. So, it was ZDX that notified us. And, the chain went on. So I think, that was pretty dumb in my sense because everyone's like a validator. So, yeah.
Shout out to bloody ping.pub. I got to recognize good projects, man. And I tell you what, I reckon now every time there's like a network upgrade or anything to do with someone's like trying to rejoin or catch up as a group, everyone's got ping.pub open, and I'd hate to be that poor RPC getting flogged.
Yeah.
Because that's like a light explorer too, so it doesn't cache anything. It's just constantly flogging RPC somewhere.
Sorry, do you just pronounce cache?
Yeah, cache. What do you call it? Cache.
Cache.
Would you please pronounce corollary for me, the Frey?
Corollary.
I love it.
What?
Or aluminum, perhaps?
Wait, no. How about schedule?
Or schedule?
Schedule, yeah. You mean aluminium, Schultzy?
Yeah,
Would you
aluminium.
pronounce,
What's the big deal?
Fucking
hood
aluminum.
for me? Like the hood of a car?
Bonnet?
The bonnet?
Oh, right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But I think we must have, like, England and Australia share a lot of our pronunciation, because we came from there.
Would
Well,
you
so
pronounce
wasn't-
criminal for me, the Frey?
Oh, Australian.
Actually, isn't the trunk of a car called a dicky in some places?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
It is.
I thought
is.
my favorite Australian word is ute. Right? Do you know that one?
You don't have utes?
We don't have utes. They don't sell them here. I've seen a ute. There's somebody who lives near me with a ute, and it's literally, they must have imported it from Australia. But
Take your SUV and cut the back off it.
Yeah,
No,
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 you got to stand off. Utes are like my favorite vehicle. If they were in the US, like the Subaru Baja, oh man, I would be all over so quick. They're my absolute favorite.
You've got utes. Like, a Tundra is a ute. They just call it a truck.
yeah, right. No, but those are like pickup trucks, or they're like SUVs with like a deck. But like a ute is like a fucking tiny Renault or some shit with a proper flatbed. That's super weird. That's like
Yeah, it's like a sedan with a flatbed kind of deal. It's
Exactly.
not a truck. A Tundra's not a ute.
That's a style side ute. They're fucking useless. They don't really make them anymore.
I
Is
love
that
it.
true, really?
I love there's like a
Yeah.
distinction. There's like different tiers of ute, and that's the shit tier ute.
Well, the ones you're talking about are like, they're like you take a sedan and you cut the ass out of it and call it a ute, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
what you call a pickup truck is what we call a ute most of the time. And that's just like you take your SUV and cut the ass out of it, and then you've got a ute. So, take anything and cut the ass out of it, you've got a ute. Take a van, you've got a fucking flatbed.
Right, we'll take that under advisement, Noel. Shane, do you want to tell us the funniest thing you've seen in crypto this week?
Stupidest thing.
Man, this week, I'm drawing blanks with that right now. I can't. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. So guys have to come back to me on that one.
It gets me every time. Like, what is the stupidest thing I've seen? I don't know.
I mean, we do plenty of stupid things and then figure it out and then try to fix it. So there's like, plenty of like, I don't know, smart contract stuff that we would like screw up and then, fix, and then we get it deployed later. But something, is this Cosmos specific or anything
You want, really. Could have been just, we usually make it Cosmos specific, but if you've seen something else that's dumb, bring it up, man.
The default answer is Cardano.
Cardano, I can just say Cardano, right? Oh man. I'll get back to me on this one. Sorry.
Jabby, of course you mean Cardano.
Cardano. Yeah, I think it'd be Cardano. Or
Cardano.
Yeah. Difficult to say. I think in the south of England you probably have people say Cardano, and I think in the north of England you have people saying Cardano.
Gadana.
And that's presumably how Australians would say it.
No,
I mispronounced.
Apparently their consensus engine is really good. I've never used it or tried it, but I know that Mina Protocol used it for a while.
What's specifically so cool about it?
I don't really know. You're gonna have to check it out.
But the word on the street is that shit is hot.
Yeah.
Nice. So first question, I thought like I was kind of interested in this actually because it's something that has come up a bit when we've been chatting with. It's particularly I know Usurper and I have some maybe guilty pleasures in common on this front. But what do you guys listen to when you're working? It's like to everybody, but I know I wanted to put this in as the icebreaker because I know Shane has, in my opinion, pretty good taste in music.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when we were hanging out in Lisbon because I like rarely meet other people that are also into this like weird electronic, kind of like what do you want to call it, like post metal or something like that.
Stuff with guitars that's also got lots of electronics in it. I don't know.
I have a friend who calls it yoga metal, so maybe that will put like an image in people's minds. But these days, though, I've been like when I'm coding, I either I listen to metal or techno when I'm coding for some reason.
Yeah,
Techno
metal,
seems enduringly popular to loads of people I seem to talk to in the Cosmos Eco. Just like minimal techno seems to be all everywhere.
just like relaxing techno.
Yeah, it's either minimal techno or something really loud and fast.
I think the good thing about metal is that you don't get hung up on the words because you can't really understand them. So it's just like nice noise.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, grunts or growls or like
Yeah, it's
none at all. And you can actually just get stuff done.
Right.
Yeah, but we were talking about like Russian circles, stuff like that, Pelican.
Yeah, I think we sessioned quite a bit of Pelican actually. That's something just classic straight up post rock stuff. I've had quite a good during the old Juno crisis last week. I got a lot done to there's some great YouTube mixes of basically jungle that was composed for 90s video games because the game studios were like, this is what the kids are into. They're into jungle, but we're not going to license any tracks. We've got to get composers to create original music that is like the jungle that we think the kids will listen to, but it's just slightly quirky and dorky in its own thing. And like the Ace Combat soundtrack, all of the snowboarding video games and stuff. And as soon as you listen to it, you're like, oh shit, this is literally my childhood. This is why I'm into the music I'm into. It's so obvious because it's just like, it's sort of like jungle, but also a bit industrial, but also a bit whatever. And it's just not quite any of the things. And you're like, oh, it's really its own subgenre of jungle, but recommend that. Sisler, what do you use to work to?
Yeah, anything that not anything actually. Desert Dwellers, Spongle, these are things that I listen to. Like 140 BPM, lower than that without lyrics. That's where I'm at. So I get that pace, and yeah.
Isn't like 143 BPM like the classic slow? Is like whatever it is. It's slowcore. There's like a particular genre of drum and bass, isn't there? That's like really specifically like around 143.
I'm not too sure, but it'll be on the lower side. So I think you can call it trance. That's progressive trance, something like that. It's IBN. I know these from. I have no clue about the genres that I listen to. I can't differentiate between genres, but at the same time, I see these on. Yeah, I see these on di.fm, and that's where you have side chills, IBN, and so on and so forth. So
nice.
These are some of the stations that I listen to. Yeah.
I used to work next to two of the funniest programmers I've ever sort of worked with around a desk. One of them used to listen to huge amounts of uplifting trance. There's like a subgenre of trance. He used to make it himself, and he was actually, to be fair, he was actually pretty good at it. Like, it wasn't really my thing, but the funniest was there was a guy I used to work with who was really into soca, and he'd just come in every day. He was probably one of the best programmers top 3 programmers I ever worked with. And he used to come in every day, just smash down sweets, like packets of sweets. He'd just have like a pile of them on his desk. He was skinny as a rake somehow, but just chain eat sweets all day, double espressos constantly. Every time he ran out, he would go back out and get another one, and just soca with like, how it has all the air horns. So you couldn't really hear anything other than like a continuous like beat all day long that was quite similar. And then like just periodic air horns throughout the day. But he was just an incredible programmer. But it was just really, really surreal, just like kind of having this constant ear next to you all day long, and it just like leaked out of his headphones. But yeah, Schultzy, how about you?
I feel kind of soft-core compared to you guys. My go-to is actually a lo-fi Nintendo track playlist on YouTube. It's like, Legend of Zelda or Mario kind of turned kind of a little bit techno, and then I just listen to that basically on repeat. And same thing for you, is it kind of hits that nostalgia point while also engaging you into like some sort of consistent rhythm. Works for me.
I have a mental image of like every time that fail to compile, it's like bloop, 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 the guy going down the tube.
That's not too far off. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice. Jabby, how about you?
I mean, Mongolian throat singing. That. That's just really good. And then that sort of leads into like didgeridoo, which is like, that's my shit. And then some ABBA. I tend to
I can't even
actually
tell
wear...
if you were trolling then. I was like,
definitely trolling. Yeah,
completely
totally.
legit. Sounds
The whole thing was a troll. I mostly listen to the noise canceling on my headphones because it helps
What noise?
like block out all the screaming that's happening behind me.
I mostly just listen to the
That
void.
is actually true. I have 6 children, and so it's always there. It's a party. It's always a party.
So white noise is the go-to.
Yeah. Well, I prefer Gaussian noise. I feel like white noise puts race into it, and it's not me. But I get it. You're Australian, so.
Speaking of
Jabby,
Australians,
Jabby, I don't really know you, but I can imagine you have a non-account on Twitter that's just a total troll.
Popmos.
Yes,
Popmos.
Yeah, that's 100% Popmos.
Yeah.
And only one, not 10.
That means you have 10.
I love people that have entire conversations with themselves between their troll accounts.
It's super
like
normal.
Jabby and Popmos.
Yeah, exactly. Jabby and Popmos.
So the only didgeridoo fact I've got, right, because I've got a bullshit fact about everything, right, is that speaking of Australian progressive rock bands, the really loud synth-like sound at the beginning of Change that goes through the entire track is actually a didgeridoo. I didn't realize until I saw a live recording. They did a live show during lockdown, and they had this guy on stage with a didgeridoo just like smashing it out like a mic'd up didgeridoo. And it was like, holy shit, that's why it sounds like this massive bass synth. It's because it's whack off didgeridoo going through the entire track. It's like drowning out every other instrument. It's really fucking cool. I was like, yeah.
So in Australia, when we have like, conferences and balls and stuff like that, it's pretty common nowadays to do like a welcome to country, like from the traditional owners. So whoever the tribe was for that particular area that the event is on, they have like a welcome to country, which is like welcome to our spot, our land, by like traditional owners. And a lot of times that involves like a bit of a didgeridoo performance. And there's some pretty cool didge out there, man. I actually enjoy listening to it.
It's like a really surprising, like, I mean, okay, that sounds really patronizing, but like, if you've ever played a didgeridoo as somebody who is obviously rubbish at it, you're like, oh, right, okay, you can make noise with it. It sounds kind of cool. Where do I go from here? And then you see somebody who can actually play it, and you're like, wow, this is actually a really expressive instrument that but that's just, I guess, arrogance as like, you can play the guitar. So you pick up a didgeridoo and you're like, obviously I'm going to rock at this. And then you can only make one noise and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool noise, but
one thing that's like, I don't know if it's because I live in Australia and we associate it so much with like country and traditional owners, but like when I hear it, it makes me feel like I'm actually out in the country, if that's makes any sense. Like I've spent a lot of time on property when I was younger, growing up, and out in the, it's more the Pilbara like area, Western Australia, than the Red Desert. It makes me feel like I'm there. I don't know why it is, but yeah, certainly makes me nostalgic of it when I hear it. So I don't know if that's what it's supposed to do, but it certainly transports me, if that makes any sense.
True Australian. That must be it. I can't say. I don't know. That must be an Australian.
You don't
thing.
feel like you're in the Red Desert when you hear a didgeridoo immediately?
But I've not been to the Red Desert, so maybe it's one of those things. Maybe if you've been there, it makes sense. Anyway, should we talk about NFTs?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say we can segue, and someone should make an NFT collection of didgeridoos soundtracks.
Well, okay, so
or maybe
actually,
notes.
We've got a bunch of questions about NFTs, right? And stuff here, but like as somebody mentioned, this is quite formless. We kind of just like having a bit of a chat. And hey, it's Usurper. All right.
Am I in
a rocking chair?
Play the music. Yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty good wind up. Usurper's
What's
just
up?
appeared in a rocking chair. But so obviously there's a lot of kind of preconceptions about what NFTs are, and like joking aside, like obviously you're having a bit of a wind up, Shane. I see you're jerking my chain here. You're saying, what if you just made a bunch of didgeridoos, NFT collection, let's all laugh at the fray. But also, what if you did actually record lots and lots and lots of different, like, because like every instrument, like presumably didgeridoos have a character of their own, right? So you could do some kind of collection of different like types, different whatever. Like, I mean, but that would require like I guess an audio NFT, right, or something like that. Like, what do you think about those? I mean, what do you think about different genres of NFT? What do you think about different medias, and what do you think, like, this is both Sisler and Shane. Like, what do you think that we're going to see as people start to go like, oh, maybe these are? Is that a different thing to a collectible, like a lot of NFTs are now, or is that like, what are the limits of those multimedia NFTs, and what are the ideas what are the low hanging fruit that haven't been like explored in that area, like the
Well, I mean,
NFT
NFTs right now are still kind of in their toy phase, right? And the generative projects, the PFPs, that's the kind of stuff that people like. But the way I see it is that when Ethereum first launched, it was just like all the tokens were just like a bunch of shitcoins, right? And I'm not saying the generative projects are like the shitcoins of NFTs, but I think I think a lot of them will end up doing that. But right now, if you're like a musician, you buy like VSTs and you buy different sound packs and stuff like that, right? Those could be NFTs at some point. And then if you're the creator, you can make all the royalties from it directly without having to go through any intermediary, right? So I think that stuff is coming. I think anything that is non-fungible in digital form will be published as an NFT at some point.
So
it's just a matter of time.
In relation to like music NFTs, right, or like audio NFTs. So I know that Omniflix has audio NFTs at the moment on their platform. I don't think I've seen anything like that on Stargaze yet, Shane. But do either of you guys see like a future where, for example, like artists might be able to license sampling and stuff like that through NFTs instead of actually just buying them, like being able to license content for use in podcasts and that type of media production?
I'll take this. Yes, definitely, because it is a natural logical progression of how distribution happens. So right now we are utilizing StreamYard and YouTube, and in an ideal future we won't need the artist to actually sell anything. They'll just license out everything, and these will be derivative NFTs, or these can be any form. So here, like just going back to Frey's question, right? NFT is a primitive. I think Shane, you mentioned that earlier too. And just like how we have fungible tokens, NFTs are these non-fungible primitives that exist on a ledger, on a trustless ledger and so on and so forth. And media NFTs in that sense are like the first set of NFTs, and it's like the playground, right? Like you have toys in the playground. This is like the first phase of experimentation. If you see all the new age tech that has been developed, it has in some sense been developed through its use in media. It's not because we are working on those that I'm sharing that fact, but when we look at it, right, like even Apple computer, Apple ones and twos, they were out of desktop publishing. They started off with the most basic things, and that's when they evolved to be something super smart and so on and so forth. So media in that sense allows uh, an opportunity, a zone where you can fail. And even if you fail, the risk is that people might not view content or something like that might happen. But when in this case, like with blockchain and NFTs, we are combining, there's a financial aspect to that element of media as well. So transmedia, multimedia, these NFTs will definitely, we can see that even now. So there might be a song that can be used as an access pass or something like that. And, eventually, there might be AR NFTs and so on and so forth as well. So yeah, multimedia NFTs will be there in the future. Right now, it's only text, audio, video, images that are being experimented with.
So I'm going to throw another thing out there, and I'm just going to keep throwing ideas out here today because I'm an ideas man, as you both know. So I can see a world where, in terms of like licensing and on-chain licensing, NFTs and stuff, where, for example, like we have news websites where you sort of lease an NFT as access, like through Web3, so that you and I know you know what I'm talking about when I say this, Sisler, where you like stream payment over time, so you can either have the subscription or not have the subscription just by subscribing to it on chain, and then using your Web3 wallet get access to like websites and stuff like that. Because I know in the past, like XRP have experimented with this like years and years ago about streaming payment for Web3 while actually consuming content in web pages, which was pretty cool back then. I'm not sure if they're still doing that. I sort of lost touch with their development. But does that seem like something that's feasible and something we'll likely see in the next couple of years? Any of you guys working on something like that?
I mean, I think you're getting at like lending and borrowing of NFTs, right? And integration with NFTs and DeFi is definitely going to happen. And lending and borrowing is just kind of a primitive that's going to enable stuff like this. And just because all the data is on chain, everything's trackable. You can have all kinds of metadata on IPFS. There's just a lot more clarity around like sharing of these assets.
Yeah. And yeah, just to add to that, right, like even in this case, like we are like 6 people and there are how many people that are watching? I don't know, Frey.
We have 4.
7. Yeah, there's 7 total.
Oh, 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's just say we have thousands of people that are watching, and each of them, they want to maybe incentivize us or, just donate, right? Like they can start to stream money, that's programmable money in that sense. And, if that is like many to one from a creator standpoint, right? Creators receiving the money. We have, say, a Coke or, whoever that can drop tokens for everyone that's listening. That's like one to many, from the creator to the audience that are consuming this content. So distribution in that sense, like the newspaper example that you mentioned, yes, 100% we believe that'll happen. In some sense we worked on that, but we've tested that framework and so on and so forth. But that is definitely future that we see potentially with distribution. Okay. So yeah, like that is one. And the other part is, yes, NFTs are being used as access, for communities, in Discords and so on and so forth. Eventually we'll see a lot more subscriptions that turn into NFTs. So just, having that NFT will give you access to the platform, maybe as a beta tester, maybe someone with exclusive access. So we'll see more of these happening rather than, the urgent use case of maybe going towards streaming payments. But definitely streaming payments will happen. We've seen Cosmos contracts as well. We've seen Cosmos based modules as well. around that. And yeah, it is very helpful, even in a case where, let's say, there is a doctor or a lawyer and you operate in a trustless sense. You just go to a website, click, and start to talk, interact, consult, and you pay. There's a trustless payment aspect of it. Yeah, so this is quite possible. Yeah,
I think so. Sort of following on from that, in terms of the web applications, we haven't really seen enough development in Web3 wallets to be able to sort of follow that development path yet, have we? Does anyone know if there's foundation funding or funding from any public like DAOs for this type of Web3 wallet integrations, or are we sort of relying on the likes of Kepler to just pick this up at some point and roll with it?
Well, so actually, Osmosis just came out with a grant program that directs towards Kepler specifically around development around it, putting on custom RPCs, things like that. So I guess in that sense, yes and yes. Yes, there's foundation money going towards it, and yes, we're waiting for Kepler.
Yeah, they're opening the door for you to self-develop.
So right now, Kepler has Stargaze support in their app. They have a Stargaze app in the Kepler app. Like, we didn't even ask them to do it or anything like that. It's just they just wanted to do it, I guess. But we have the streaming dev fund on chain that we're going to direct some of the funds to, like hackathons and bounties and stuff like that, and would gladly fund any other wallet projects.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, in terms of wallets, there really is that. Like, obviously, the major one is Kepler. I would like to see a competitor come up in the space, just to keep everyone on their toes and keep developing hard so no one gets comfortable. I don't know how feasible it is. Everyone seems to be, on the Kepler train, but I mean, surely there's space for another one. There has to be, and I think competition in the space is key to driving development.
I think only if we see a winter, really. Like, I think the reality is a lot of the way incentives are constituted in the space is that it's not necessarily smart money to go after building a wallet. However, if the market cooled down a lot, which maybe it's doing now for a bit, maybe it will go back up again next week, or go around in circles, or go side to side. Who knows, right? But
me /price_chat, mate.
Yeah, sorry.
Right.
This isn't price chat, is it? We'll do the price chat episode in future, right? And then we can put all of our wild theories out there. But I think in the current market, like, if you have a dev team who understand the space and could build a wallet, there are other more profitable avenues to be exploring, right? And I think that's kind of the problem of the wallet situation. I mean, so first of all, when like the name service stuff that I did with one or two other people, really, obviously the first version of that took about 5 minutes back in Lisbon, and I think Shane was actually around the table when I was like, hang on a minute,
yeah,
why does nobody build an NFT, a name service that's just an NFT? And it was like about 2 minutes later I had a proof of concept of it. It was like, okay, cool, now this requires like wallet integration and like 100 other things, right, to make it like fully realized. And it's that huge gap between that initial idea, I think, where a lot of teams get to, and then like all of the other things where you basically realize that wallet integration is like the end user feature that would be amazing, but you're not going to make any money from building that, and if anything, somebody will vampire attack you, right?
Well, I mean, MetaMask makes a lot of money by integrating swaps inside MetaMask, and they take a little bit of the fee. So I think Cosmos, I think the ecosystem is just a little bit earlier. I think at some point there'll be maybe another contender for wallet, and maybe Kepler might even integrate Osmosis, and maybe another wallet might come in and integrate another DEX and start taking fees.
Well,
that's probably the way to do it.
So this was going into, there are obviously other projects that we've like working on now with other people as well that are mainly smart contract based, and commonly, as soon as you start doing lots and lots of Cosmwasm stuff, you start wanting much deeper integration with Cosmos and smart contracts. And very quickly, you also realize that this might be a wallet problem, this isn't just like a dApp you're building. It might actually be better suited to be a wallet, right? And then you go, okay, so are we really going to sit down here and build a wallet? Is that really what's going to is that what we want to do for the next 6 months of our lives, right? And the answer is no, not in the current situation, because there's so many other things to focus on. And probably this problem will still be there in 6 months because nobody will have solved it by then.
I mean, I think it makes sense for a validator to build a wallet, because then they can just use that validator as the default one for all the services that they use. and
that would make them really popular. Maybe that's what Putmos is. Maybe we should have asked Gabby while he was still here. Maybe that's what Putmos would be. It would be a wallet.
Well, that's what the Cosmos Station wallet does, right?
That is what Cosmos
anyone
yeah,
who
that's
uses
what Cosmos Station does.
Yeah.
that's why they're at the top of everything.
Yeah, actually the EVMOS model is pretty good in that sense, where they're directing some a part of the inflation to developers, right? DApp people that deploy DApps. So just like that, if there is a possibility, so we've thought of a case where in future, if there is a possibility to maybe award or split a small fee from the transaction fee to wallets that are actually going ahead and initiating these transactions, that'd be great. But right now we don't have means for that, and it's like a flat funding at this point in time. But definitely that is the future, right? Like when we built InSync or the staking interface, right, it almost became a wallet, like except for the send. If you notice, like just the send part is not there, otherwise everything else is there. So you could technically use Kepler to connect, and send was like, it was too easy to integrate, but we just chose not to integrate, because with send we'll have like a lot more things. We'll have to integrate CoinGecko, the price, APRs, XYZ, everything, and we have Kepler doing that. So we intentionally avoided the send button. And honestly, there, like, lack of funding is another reason. Like we built that tool because we were afraid that we might not be integrated anywhere, and we had to have an interface for our chain, right? Like that was the first thought, but eventually it helped multiple other chains, and we are very happy with that. And but except for our delegation, like Juno, we received that on Stargaze, Comdex. Except for the delegation grant, there's no actual money or like grants that are given directly for building such tools. Like we definitely got a grant from Juno, but that was about it. So there's no true funding in that sense. So the model of funding it is broken, but technically something can be achieved where anyone that actually goes ahead and initiates a transaction from a specific wallet can, the client can actually take a cut. So it'll be great.
So I think this segues into something I want to talk about, especially because we've got both of you here, which is that we're talking about now wallets and stuff and how end users sort of interact with things. Obviously, interchain accounts are coming along now, so that's like one thing which I'm very interested to hear, like both of your opinions on, like how the stuff that we're starting to see, like new primitives for chains talking to each other, I guess, is going to change how useful these things are to the end user, how ergonomic they are to the end user, and also like how you guys see each other kind of in terms of interop and working together and standards and all that sort of stuff as well. Because IBC NFTs is still the spec is, I feel like that got merged literally the other day, but like you guys obviously literally work together, and I think in maybe a more traditional space you'd be seen as like much more kind of competitors, right? So I'm kind of really interested to what you guys think about these new primitives that are coming along and what it means for interop and whatnot in the future.
I'm super excited about interchain accounts. You can do, you can have like a DAO control another chain, and after a governance vote passes, something else happens on another chain. That's super cool. One thing we're going to use it for is to do make the onboarding easier. So you can do, for example, a swap on another chain, and then just kind of swap into the native currency for your chain. It's going to be super easy. But in terms of so ICS 1021, the whole like IBC NFT thing is a completely different thing, right? We actually had a meeting this morning about kind of syncing up with that. I wasn't aware that the standard was merged, but it's pretty much almost done. And I think what was that? I think Sisla, you guys have like a SDK version of it, and we are working on a CosmWasm version of it. And the good thing is that it's a protocol, so a protocol is language agnostic, right? So even if it's on CosmWasm or on the SDK side, it should still work, because what you're just doing is transferring like the token ID and the URI. And you have this like class ID that's like the identifier for the source chain, and then you like mint the synthetic NFT on your side. So after we get all that built, we can have NFTs flowing around the Cosmverse.
Oh man, that's awesome. That was a big question of mine, is the interop between the SDK, because I was just talking to Sisler about that the other day. The SD, because theirs runs on an SDK version, and then all the the WASM versions of NFTs. So man, that's great news. The fact that they're going to be able to interop. Fantastic.
So what is it? So being layman, what does that actually mean? Does that mean the ability to transfer? Does that mean that you could have a marketplace that you could sell across chains? Like, what does that actually enable?
Yeah, so it means that like someone can mint an NFT on OmniFlix and then transfer it to the marketplace on Stargaze, or someone could mint an NFT on Stargaze and send it to OmniFlix to their marketplace. So if one chain provides a unique feature that the other doesn't, then someone might want to transfer the NFT over.
So you could post something for sale on both, for example. Is that kind of what that means?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's the same NFT or you can post on both, but yeah, that's a whole kind of worm.
That's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah.
Did I find an issue?
Well, because there is also a question of addressability, isn't there? Because that's something that we've had the question where because there's like, I don't know, 10,000 people or whatever that bought names with the name service on Juno. They're like, okay, well, am I going to be able to use this with Stargaze? Am I going to be able to use this on other chains? Right. And use this obviously means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. The most simple version of, can I use something to dereference my wallet address is, yes, it's a BEC32, and you throw anything at it and it will just return the Juno equivalent, right? That's super simple. But when people mean, will it interop with NFT standards on other chains in an agnostic way, hard to say. We're at a pretty early point, but like, what if you can then essentially make a fake derivative of it by granting a permission to it on two different chains? Like, it's gonna be quite interesting to see how those kinds of conditions like actually thrash out in the wild, because that, if again with tokens, it's pretty obvious, right? Because your balance is your balance. You send them to another chain, they're in the native bank module, right? But there's a lot of very interesting things involved in things that are nominally unique being moved to another chain and then having a new derivative version of themselves, right? Because then you run into the IBC problem of then moving it back to the source chain. It's sort of no longer the same thing, is it? And I think that question of addressability is really interesting to me. Like, I'm not certain. There aren't many good ways of doing it, right? That's the problem. But maybe it's one of my concerns with IBC in general, is like how addressability works in IBC. And I wonder if NFTs are the thing that really might expose some questions about that. I don't know if you guys have, you might feel free to tell me I'm wrong, but
no, that's actually right. Like in the earlier call also, we were discussing a case where, what if we bring NFTs from one channel and that channel is closed, and what do you do with that? Like, and how do you take the NFTs back to the source chain? If it were fungibles, it would have been a different story, because these are unique assets, right? Like there's the source chain that you'll have to store. The same is the case, even if we try to connect with, say, an EVMOS, right? And there's an Ethereum NFT that entered EVMOS. So that is again different from an NFT that entered through Gravity. I think this has been discussed quite a lot of times. So if there's a punk that's from Gravity, goes to Stargaze and comes to OmniFlix, that's different. When it goes from Gravity to Omniflix to Stargaze, that's a completely different NFT. So the value of it might differ as well based on the channel. And even now, like we see on Ethereum, just like assets that that are just copy paste, that just copy the punk IDs and so on and so forth, and then they create representative assets and they move things around. So to an extent that that reference to the source is best observed on the chain for people that can figure it out. But there's multiple layers of abstraction, I think, user experience wise, just like how we are seeing the osmosis, bridge, decision, and fungible token. Like this is in fungible tokens, right? Non-fungibles will take some time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
you
this
kind of
where
have
the
that.
hub of? Go ahead.
No. I was gonna say this is the diamond problem in IBC, where you're like transferring from chain A to chain B to chain C, and then you kind of have to go back the same path. And if you don't go back the same path, it's not fungible the same way.
Yeah. So I think that's
What were you
like
gonna say, Schulte?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, this is kind of where the conversation around the Cosmos Hub originally came from, right? Where in theory everything should have been directed through the Cosmos Hub and then go from there. So that's their way. There was just that single source of truth, but we haven't taken that path. We've kind of taken the spider's web path as opposed to the hub path.
So
Right.
I think I've
But
heard
this has been solved once before, right? Because we had the World Wide Web where uniqueness was required from heterogeneous servers running software to serve web pages and serve resources, and actually, of course, in the case of linked data, to serve federated data resources that should be able to call each other. And the URI was the design for that I think it's easy to forget how despite its kind of clunkiness and ubiquitousness, how elegant a solution to the problem the URI is, and how it's served the job pretty well. But the necessity of the design for IBC, as I understand it, as somebody who is not super technically in the weeds of that design, it's the design of the relayers and the channels that causes the issue, right? Where the addressability of a resource is fundamentally tied to its state as it moved around, right? Because resources aren't immutable, which in Web 2 a resource is immutable. It's either there or it's 404, right? So is this something that we should be looking at new primitives for? Now we have NFTs that are going to be moving between chains, and they might be potentially incredibly valuable. Is this a point to say, okay, well, we have two different paths here? Maybe we can take a look at whether or not these resources should have their state mutated by the channel they're sent on, or whether they, it would make more sense to make them globally unique at the point of creation and then go from there. Like maybe the same NFT minted on Stargaze, no matter what chain you eventually land on, it has, it's Stargaze, then the contract address, then the name of the token or something. Like it has some kind of at creation metadata that then always identifies it as that thing. I don't know.
I think one thing would be really interesting is when shared security is a thing, right? Then would security be normalized between more of the chains? And if that's the case, then that would kind of change the fungibility of the routes for IBC. So that'll be interesting to see if that happens or not. But right now in the World Wide Web, like there's no, it doesn't matter what route you take, right? There isn't a security guarantee for each route, but in IBC, there is. So it's just fundamentally a different problem, and it's like really hard to solve it. So right now, the easiest way to do it is, like if Stargaze gets an NFT from Gravity Bridge, for example, and then you just have to make sure that you always send it back without going to another chain.
So I think I've been talking to people about this a while ago when the web of accounts and channels became apparent, and I think you can address it at least. on a UX UI level, and having like, you know, a bit of a standard around a uniform UX UI, so that we have situations where everybody is doing a similar thing. Like, for example, Osmosis has the deposit withdraw, and it's purposefully back to and from the original chain. And the same with Juno Swap. And I'm not sure about SIF chain or other ones, but sort of having an understanding of what can happen if you don't do that, and addressing that on a UI UX level can really reduce the spaghetti, as long as everybody toes the line and does the same thing. But what happens? I guess it's the same question for tokens, right? So what happens if you know, a bunch of NFTs get sent from Omniflix to like Stargaze, right? And then Omniflix disappears, or vice versa.
They'll stay on Stargaze, right? If Omniflix goes down, definitely they'll be more valuable, or less valuable on Stargaze. They'll be the representative assets. Even now, right? Like, we thought of a case, best case scenario is when someone actually buys Atom on Osmosis and sends them directly to Omniflix. But but that's not possible right now, because that is a different channel. The Atom on Osmosis is a different channel, and comes if it goes to Omniflix, it's a different token altogether, right? So even on Omniflix, we have the deposit withdraw function. It has to go back to the same account, right? So that yeah, it has been challenging in that sense. But yeah, definitely, if either of our chains go down, like one of it and the other stays, right, these are assets that will continue to stay on the other chain, with maybe the source chain identifier intact. I'll just say Stargaze contract ID, token ID, yeah, the yeah, token ID, and vice versa. So yeah.
Because
I mean,
it doesn't have
in-
like any, there's no elevated right to do something to a NFT than what a normal user account is, right? So it can't like, transform it or anything like that. So when you send an NFT from one chain to the other, and I know we're not really doing this yet, but is it likely that it'll just work the same as a token, that it just gets put in some sort of escrow on the source chain, and then
Yeah.
becomes synthetic on the
Most
destination
likely.
chain? And then when you send it back, it pretty much just nukes the synthetic and then unlocks the NFT on the source.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
that's
That's
right.
kind of how it works. But the other interesting thing about NFTs is that most of all the data is stored on IPFS, or at least it should be stored on IPFS, right? So the data is always accessible. It's just that if another chain goes down or whatever, it's just the record that is going to be different.
Well, hang on a minute, Shane.
Or the provenance.
Hang
I
on a
mean,
minute.
which is the more that's the more important thing, though. But yeah.
Well, hang on a minute. Should be
Yeah.
stored on IPFS. That,
Okay, well,
I'm
that's
very
questionable, that's fair.
very heavily standing the COS and WASM on-chain metadata standard. Like it's at the core of kind of like a lot of the projects we're working on at the moment.
Yeah.
Cosmos gas fees are low enough that you can store data on chain. You can use iterators in Rust or whatever to start, behaving like you're interacting with a NoSQL database, and you can eliminate some of the mutability problems that people have kind of shown and demonstrated with NFTs in other places. Now, obviously, mutability might not be a problem if you're using that for creative reasons, artistic reasons, whatever. Like, it can be a feature, not a bug. But that's the thing. Should we be saying, oh yeah, sure, it's totally cool that IPFS is how we do things and that's how it should work in the future, or should we be moving to a future where we are putting more of that data on chain?
Yeah, like right now we are putting the metadata on the chain directly, and the media file aspect is being stored on IPFS. So yeah, these are different approaches, but in our case, if you look at it, it's someone actually renting space forever on the chain without by just paying the transaction fee, and it is the validators and the storage node hosts and everyone else that will have to bear all these costs in perpetuity. So this is, in some sense, a decent model, not a great model, but may not be the is like a baby step in the direction of storing data that's mutable or immutable on the chain directly and using that as a reference. So this is when we believe interchain accounts and some of the other aspects around interchain accounts will come into play, where there might be specific data stored on a specific chain. So and probably this is how Cosmos will scale too, like with all the zones, right? Like some zones actually store that data on the chain. Some might not, some might use other ways to actually mutate that data, right? Like if you ask me, in like personally what I believe, the JPEG or the PNG should be an SVG and that should be stored on the chain, but at what expense? Like what joy, right? So that these are the questions that
even an SVG, it has to be below 10 KB, right? Or so. That's, or at least with Cosmwasm anyway, that's kind of the most you can really get away with storing on chain, and that the gas is not cheap. You begin to get into like but again, maybe this is the question is if this is but then it's even back to like, no matter what database technology you're using, that binary data for that image is not going to go in the database, right? It's going to go, even in a traditional web world, you'd throw it in an S3 bucket or a file server or whatever. You typically do have your database storing your file metadata and then your file elsewhere, which I guess begs the question of whether it's actually a problem of incentives, right? Which then becomes about like you just said, Sisler, it's quite cheap to store in perpetuity for what it is. If it is in fact storing it in perpetuity, the validator set are bearing the cost of that, right? And there are projects like Arweave that Filecoin, Seacoin. There are other projects that have kind of grappled with this in the past already in Web3. Whether or not any of them have come to a good conclusion on it, we're too early to tell, almost, aren't we? Right?
I mean, they're doing great, at least for now. They are powering a lot of the infra, so in some sense that's fine. But definitely there'll be better incentivization models, as you said, right? Like more than the aspect of this changing radically fundamentally, right? Like these will be separate, the metadata and the media file maybe, but who stores that, and how are incentives structured to
And
facilitate this?
in this IBC world, and even with bridges and everything else, if you mint something on OmniFlix and it moves to Stargaze and it's transferred via Gravity Bridge or something else, even if we had storage nodes and we built a storage node network around that NFT might disappear, and there might be 1,000 transactions on a chain that those validators or those storage nodes receive no compensation for. Isn't that right? Like as we move forward, like, so depending on where that's being traded or how that's being used or even licensed, if that's homed in OmniFlix and that transfers out, and then Gravity Bridge, it's licensed, and then you have 1 million transactions that somebody's getting royalties off an MP3 song. It's very difficult there's really no way to bring that back, right? There's no fee structure to kind of bring that back to the people who are, or the individuals or the organizations that are supporting that transfer. Is that right? And I think in the grand scheme of things, you hope that it works out, right? You hope that there's just as many leaving as there is coming in, and those types of things. But I think that's kind of a concern, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the context of IBC, it's just a lot simpler to have the NFT being just like a pointer to the actual data. And it's just simpler in the context of IBC to have as much of the data like off chain as possible, because then when an NFT moves to another chain, it could be more easily queried, in just from one place, as opposed to like querying a whole bunch of different chains to be able to like reconstitute like the NFT. So,
but Shane, that data would have to be somewhat managed by either a validator set or something else to make sure it doesn't change, or that, doesn't it? Does it have to be somewhat managed in that sense?
So once it goes to IPFS, it's addressed to them, right? And that's it.
If it's an IPFS, right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking outside of that, like if it was something, some other.
Well, I mean, you like say
like even IPFS. I mean, there can be the storage node network which is powered, which has nodes of IPFS, and maybe SIA and something else, and they can be curated and incentivized by the networks. So what data you put on chain, what data you put off chain is, but if we are utilizing the traditional IPFS services that are available right now, that might be managed. That's actually managed storage, right? And they're making sure it is delivered, and available on demand in highly available. The availability is there. So you can maybe click on an IPFS link, it'll open up, a video will play, it'll get streamed to you. That's the advantage. So with a storage node network that's not curated properly, that might not be distributed well, all this is like not possible.
Right.
Actually, the Fray, we talked about this before, where you can kind of like build an IPFS pinning service like on top of the validator set, right? So you can have like some kind of incentive model for that.
So there is potentially something being done. Yeah, maybe.
Oh, cool.
It would have to be, right? I mean,
we'd like to collaborate. So
there is maybe a not very secret project that I keep alluding to that's doing something like that. But
Ray's super cagey about anything he's working on ever.
Yeah. Just for literally no reason at all, just because I come from a paranoid. Do you know what? It's probably literally one of those things, like Indian parents, like if you get if you show them homework and then it's got even slight mistakes in it or something, you just get so much shit. So it's better to only bring your successes to the table after the fact. You just like, if it's not a success, you just destroy your grade card on the way home from school, and you just never mention it. You only bring the meat to put on the table. Everything else, forget about it. You're getting thrown out of the house.
You're gone.
So maybe that's why I'm so cagey about projects. I'm like, if this project fails, let's just I don't even remember.
Never happened.
I don't even remember those
project. I don't even know what you're talking about.
I don't remember those Git commits. Maybe I had a beer. Who knows? For 6 months, maybe I had a few beers, worked on a project, didn't go anywhere. I don't know. We all get a bit crazy, right? Sometimes.
I have the thing is, how are you proving though that the data is still there? Like how do you prove that a validator didn't like pin the data, said they pinned the data and got like tokens for that or something, and then
I could tell you after this.
There's no project to talk about. I don't know what you're talking about, Shane.
I don't know what you're talking about, but luckily, a combination of smart people plus the economics degree that I largely snoozed through have actually solved that one for me. I wanted to ask about copyright, because obviously we talked about royalties quite a bit. It's something that foundationally has been quite important, certainly to Stargaze, in terms of it's literally front and center in the UI when you look at projects that are launching and all of that sort of thing. But obviously royalties and copyright and what people are actually buying, I think, is for maybe people who are kind of aware about how copyright works and sort of artists and creators and whatnot, is quite an interesting issue. Like, what do you guys think about the question of what people are actually buying when they buy an NFT, like with relation to ownership and copyright and that sort of stuff? Do you think it matters? Do you think more clarity is needed?
Well, in our case, we just we handed over to the creators, so they can choose like whatever license they want. If it's like CC0, or any other license, they can put it in the metadata. But I'm sure Sisla has like a more kind of a deeper answer here for this.
No, actually, we did our best to incorporate that. But a lot of the creators, they didn't have specific copyrights that they were giving out. They not a lot of them actually are aware. They're not too deep into copyright. They're not too deep into understanding maybe the business aspect of art creativity. So what can it lead to later on is not something that many have thought of. So when it is a CC0 asset, right, like maybe there have been multiple examples of music being released as a CC0 asset, and that is like, it's fine, people can do whatever they want. But when it's original art that's not declared as anything, that's still a problem. So we mentioned that, like, if there is if there is no license, in some sense, right, it it'll become CC0. But we didn't have like great support for that. So we had to educate people on the licensing part. So we are next, like in the next phase of mains and creators that we are onboarding, we want them to have a metadata field that will say licensing, and it'll have to have something associated with it, even if it's just like a IPFS link again, right? Like to some random doc that they write, that they design the copyright nature of the content and so on and so forth. But definitely we are planning to first start off with the Creative Commons licenses and then go ahead. But like when we are dealing with movie studios and record labels, and we just like there were models where they wanted their own chain, and we let it stay that way, right? Like we didn't want those assets to be put up here, and eventually sometime later when someone else infringes that copyright, it's a pain. And we are also planning on models where people can challenge, if there is, if I've produced something and Null has like use that as an NFT, or just utilized in his NFT. Yeah, we are working on models to facilitate that, but it's not like foolproof. Nothing is foolproof in that sense.
Right.
There
So
is
it's back to
there
the
is-
it's back to the, if blockchain is culture, then all the tech problems become social problems, right? Well, I mean, so I remember this happening like when people first started making like social tools for sharing music, like way back in the day, like Bandcamp, amazing in the early days because they had that license field where it was like CC0 or CCSA or all rights. It was just, I think it was just 3 options in the early days, but you could like literally go like, oh, this is CC0, or it's non-attribution, non-commercial, but otherwise go for your life, remix it, or it's all rights reserved. Which again, I'm super surprised that wasn't just in EIP 721 in the first place, right?
oh, that's because like not all assets are CC based. Movies are broken down into like 276 rights. If you sell each right, you make much more money than like selling the entire movie. So
Yeah, I
that's
guess I'm kind of
yeah.
I kind of guess I only really know mainly about the music side of things, so that's just showing my own ignorance there of the licensing situation for some types of media, right?
No, like definitely they share a lot of things, but video licensing, audio licensing, image licensing, these are like, and these are pretty left to interpretation in multiple jurisdictions. This is not like pretty standard. And personally, in a country like India and Asia, these are not really organized. Even in the West, like in something that's interpreted as X in US might not be the same in Europe, right? Europe has a completely different standard in terms of how content is handled as a whole, So yeah, these are not interoperable. So that's a huge challenge. There are no standards. So yeah, that's a huge challenge.
Not
I mean,
shocking.
I think we can start to make some new standards based on how things work on blockchains, right? So
Yeah.
things like buying a license and stuff like that, or buying out a license for an NFT for a certain period of time or something like that is possible.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen social tokens I mean, like FWB DAO on the Ethereum network. They have an event that I think that costed about 10 or 20 fungible tokens to actually enter the event. But people didn't have that, and there were other members that weren't attending that delegated. So you can delegate your access pass, you can do a lot of things. So like our model is you stake for X days, and you license it for like lower than an X days, right? And within that period, the NFT stays in that account. You can maybe create derivatives that are time based and so on and so forth. But these are models that we are still working on. So when you stake, these are some of the things that might happen within the fixed network.
So going back to storage, I wanted to mention something there that I didn't get to get in there. But I have a request that if you do something with storage that is required by validators, please make it a separate directory that can be like assigned as a separate home. So we're not all having to have like 10 terabytes of data on NVMe.
No, it'll probably be a different node, right? Shane?
Well, I mean, if it's something
Probably,
that has to be managed by the validator specifically on that node, yeah,
No,
definitely.
the validator is just the human abstraction. Right? It's just the human.
Right.
It's a different
yeah.
node altogether. So
Carrying around. Friggin-
yeah.
Yeah, because that could be. I mean, that would be a serious problem though in terms of cost to manage long term, because NVMe ain't cheap, especially if you're using cloud. And
Yeah, ask me about my AWS
Yeah.
bill.
the Freya knows all of it. It constantly talking about the bill, does nothing about it. Just
Yeah,
like,
I
well,
don't
this
know
is
if
my
people are
problem
really
because
paying
I've come from the
attention.
corporate world. I refuse to do anything about it, but I'll constantly complain about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. There have been some things happening in Juno the last few weeks that might have kept my attention elsewhere than doing what I think is quite janitorial ops work. I can't think what it is that has been taking up so much of my time, but I'll go away and have a think about it. Maybe I'll get back to you on that one.
On what's been taking up your time?
Yeah, I can't think what series of events might have taken up any of my time over the last 4 weeks. So, guys, I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking we've taken up quite. Speaking of taking up time, we've taken up quite a lot of your time. So, like, I'm really interested to. Hey, very funny. I'm really interested. Like, what are you guys most excited about? That's coming up on your projects this year. I mean, I think I can guess what it might be, but I'd like to hear you guys talk about it.
I mean, from the point of view from Stargaze, just very excited about building the marketplace, getting the marketplace out there, and have some kind of fun features planned for that. One thing I kind of want to do is build this kind of pool where anyone can submit a token or like an NFT, and then they can get another one back, a random one back that's like at least the floor price of that NFT. So just kind of like fun things like that we have planned.
Nice. I mean, I'm looking forward to the marketplace big time. Also, because I went a bit crazy and degen'd like way too many shut 114s, and I figure I need to like trade them up. Like, I need to consolidate the like. Let's not even say how many I've got. But I feel like I need to consolidate them into a manageable number of slightly rarer ones, which I will do when there's a marketplace because I degen too hard.
Well, there's like this impromptu like OTC trade Telegram group that like sprung up and people are trading them now. So that's always an option.
Don't tell me about that, Shane. I don't.
What the hell?
Like from an OmniFlix standpoint, definitely, looking forward to building this infrastructure and, making sure that whatever we thought of from a licensing standpoint, from a content delivery standpoint is achieved. Just getting the basics in place all around is what is important to us right now. Definitely, I mean, look forward to the fun features, and maybe we can have some of those as well when we are interoperable. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just on that comment, Todd has become an absolute NFT degen. He's not doing any DevOps anymore.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, Todd. You're so good at DevOps. Just please keep doing DevOps.
He won't reveal exactly what he got and how many of them he got, other than he just sort of came in ashamed to one of the chats the other day and was just like, fellas.
Yeah. Yep.
I've spent all of it on NFT.
Yeah. Man, that's where all the staking rewards go, huh?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, actually, to wrap up the thing we were talking about before with the licensing and the fact that the glitch candies was CC0 in the Genesis thing, again, that got me good. I was like, CC0, these are really cool. They're really generative. This is exactly my jam. And then like 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
Start doing
that was foolish.
So he's actually going to airdrop like the video versions of them to like everyone who bought one. So I think that's going to be pretty cool.
They're pretty cool. I like those glitches. Schultzy, what are you looking forward to, man, over the next week, month, year, decade?
Outside of the blockchain space, I just got engaged. So
congratulations.
Thank you very much. While I was in Puerto Rico without power. we were out on the waves, and that was the time.
It moved you?
Yep.
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
Thanks very much.
So is that wedding going to be in Puerto Rico? Do we all get a bait?
Definitely not in Puerto Rico. Most of my family's on the West Coast, and so it would be like a 15+ hour travel time for them. So probably in Pittsburgh.
Okay, cool. Usurper, what are you looking forward to, man?
Well, I just wanted to say also, I know I joined a little bit late, but really so nice to meet. Well, I know Shane a little bit, and Sisla, so nice to meet you. I from a validator perspective, two of the best managed and run chains in the cosmos. Can we agree on that? Like just from
Definitely.
Initiation perspective, testnet, mainnet launch. I know my light is losing here because I'm out in the middle of the woods here, but what an absolute joy to be a validator and be a part of both of these projects. It's just awesome. Like you guys really like just how to do it right this is the way you do it right. And it's been really a pleasure to be a part of both of these projects. I don't know if you guys give me a round.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I gotta,
Yes.
I gotta,
would say-
like, give hats off to Jorge, who's like does all the validator stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's just like totally on point with that stuff. So
Jorge's awesome. I work with him too, but I just mean like just from how you guys approached it and like just making validators a part of how you partnered with validators. I think going in the selection, not selection process, but how that set came together. Just how to be able to launch without ridiculous APR and other types of things that are going like less degen type situations, which nobody wants to run an auto compound script, and we've never run auto compound scripts on either Stargaze or OmniFlix, which is amazing. And it's been a real pleasure. So just wanted to say that and make sure everybody understands the quality of these two projects in the ecosystem, because they're awesome. Like I think everybody's extremely excited about what's coming this year and beyond. What am I most excited for? I don't necessarily know what's going on this week from an excitement perspective. I mean,
Did you
Prop
not
18,
just see what went on chain earlier?
I don't want to know. Prop 18 is super exciting though. I'm really excited to talk about that and just have the pitchforks come out around validators and everything else going on with Prop 18 on Juno, but we'll skip that for right now. No, I think this is it's a good week. Like I think there's a lot of new things coming out. Like Crescent just launched or at least they're talking about their mainnet and what's going on there. Some new projects coming forward and those types of things. So I think that's kind of my list for right now.
Awesome. The Frey,
No.
what are you excited about, mate?
No, you first, man. You didn't even say like most degen things you've seen this week. You got away for that one, so you got to say one now.
Well, what I'm excited to see, and this is related to NFTs, is I want to see development in wallets, and I'm excited to see someone build a product that will bring together the NFT platforms, kind of like an IBC interchain degen bloody interface that actually, like an explorer, that you can just explore all of the NFTs all in the one place, interact with all of the networks. Like I'm talking, if you've got an NFT that you want to take from Stargaze to OmniFlix, you drag and drop it, pull out your thing and get RSI on your finger 40 times a day. And I want to see that off Secret and OmniFlix and Stargaze and what's that other one called? Iris? I think they got NFTs, right? I want to see all the NFTs all in one place, and I want to see that funded by someone.
Yeah.
So I think that could be really cool, and I think
So
that's
not a
really
big
cool
ask then. Not a
adoption
big
of
ask at
NFT.
all.
Actually, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Not a big ask.
so Mintscan is starting to like bring NFTs into their platform, but I think we need like a purpose-built NFT spot where people just like, when someone starts talking about an NFT, you can just bring up the website, nice, fast website with like,
I have a name. degeNFT.
degeN.zone.
What's wrong with degeNFT? I thought that was brilliant. I was like,
Registering that right now.
There we go.
Yeah, can you buy that, Rhino? Thank you.
I'm buying it. I'm on it.
Yeah, Game of Nose
yeah.
Chain coming to support the degeNFT project.
Yeah, we'll launch a
So
chain just to have a foundation to fund that. Yeah. DeFray, give it to us, mate. What are you so excited about? You've waited till last year. I know it's something huge.
Hey, like just a small point.
Sorry, go.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, like Null, you were saying, you were talking about that interface, right? Like we have been building something. I mean, we build decent. I mean, we build like base level apps for a lot of things, and there's something called Omniflix.me, which is like a profile, right? Right now, there's no blockchain level interoperability or anything like that. What we have planned for is, first we are looking to make sure Omniflix NFTs are displayed in some sense. You'll have tabs where it'll say Stargaze, it'll just say Terra, Iris, and so on and so forth. And we'll make sure that there are integrations there that'll just like query and display NFTs. And that's about it. Maybe you should be able to go ahead and initiate some transactions, base level transactions, but only whatever is possible at the base level, and not too specific. So this is something that we have been focused on and deprioritized it for a few other reasons, but definitely something like that is in the works, but not the DGN. Yeah.
I want to write the spec for the UX.
So in other words, you want to draw the boxes on the piece of paper that somebody else has to go away and build.
Yeah, no, but I want to write it in words to make it more difficult.
Excellent. That's always panned out well in my experience.
And it'll be written in 100% Australian. So
yeah, please, like phonetic Australian. And I'll have to run a find and replace over it to remove all the instances of the word cunt.
I was gonna say not for the children. Yeah, that's for the
I try to avoid that on the podcast, man.
Actually, I'm pretty sure you can get banned from the Apple Store for that one.
I've got a pin in my shoe that I press into my toe to suppress it.
Yeah,
so what are you excited about, man? You've been avoiding it like the plague.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Honestly, I'm actually quite excited. One of the projects we're working on is going to hopefully test net this weekend or in the next 7 days, and it's been a really fun and dorky project that I've not put nearly enough effort into because of the various dramas on the Juno chain. But the other folks who I'm working with are awesome, and it's not the first. It's not the first. But there's a lot of the stuff around it is really interesting. And
first not inferred.
Yeah, it's not the first. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff that's thrown out, which I think is really interesting, and it's got us thinking about addressability and wallets and a lot of the kind of ergonomic stuff that I think we have strong opinions on. But like I say, at the moment, no time nor economic incentive to work on. But yeah, that's what I'm excited about this week.
I mean, I don't think any of us have received an invitation to participate in that testnet. The Fred.
Well,
just not me.
I'll send. Yeah. Usurper was like, Null's a bit of a loose cannon. Do we really need this guy?
It's true.
I know. I'm not even sure we've actually bought a domain yet, so we should probably just I'll send you a link when something's up, and you can go. Oh, this is what you're being secret about. It's shit.
And I'll
which
tell
I think
you,
is going to be exactly your reaction. To be clear,
I feel like you just haven't invited me because of, maybe some past comments on some of those ideas that you're working on. I feel like you're like a little bit sore at me, and now you're just locking me out. You're shutting me out.
Yeah, no, it's not that. But anyway, actually, do you know what the other thing I'm excited about is that obviously we're testing the Unity prop at the moment. Jabby's doing a lot of help with that as well, and assuming I didn't screw up writing the Genesis file for that starts tomorrow afternoon, my time.
Has it been going well?
I mean, the contracts had a preliminary audit, and it's a pretty stupid contract. Like I mean, no, it's not stupid, but like the logic involved in the Unity prop contract is not hard. The reason it's interesting is because it's novel to use a smart contract for governance, not because it's really hard to write that logic. Like the logic involved is pretty straightforward, and it's got lots of unit tests, and like I say, preliminary audit done. But actually running through all the scenarios that we would need to run through in order to verify it will do the thing that we expect is complex, and that's quite interesting. But obviously, you know, Prop 18 is now live, so maybe we've wasted our time. I don't know. We'll see.
Not
but-
by the looks of it. So this is the Scotty 2
Looks
test
pretty
thing, right?
safe right now. Yeah.
What's the current voting like? I haven't really
It's
looked.
like
I just saw it went live, and
a
I was
lot of
like,
the
"Good luck
percent
to
go
you,
with
you
veto.
crazy!" I was like,
It's
"Shine on you,
mostly-
crazy diamond," you know.
It's mostly pitchforks at the moment. Yeah.
I have never seen so many like individual votes for no with veto.
It's pretty high.
Yeah, it's over 55% of the vote was like,
Yeah.
well, I think so. Was no with veto.
So, is this going to be the first no with veto in the Cosmos ecosystem? Then, assuming it passes.
No, it's happened before, right? Didn't it happen in Osmosis before?
Right. Okay. So,
I think
So-
it has. Yeah.
So what this prop went up overnight in Australia, and when I looked at it, it had over 6,000 individual vote no with vetoes.
yeah, but
Okay.
overnight in Australia is like prime time US. So.
Yeah, I know,
nobody
but
knows-
still,
nobody knows what
the
that
point
means.
is it's
Who's
been up
voting
for like-
in the middle of the night?
People-
Oh, like a country of 300 million people.
Nobody
It's
knows what
been
time
up
that
for like
is.
what, a few hours, right? And it's like
Say what it is in
6,000
like
votes.
Europe or yeah.
Yeah. you know,
I don't
obviously-
think honestly the 500 Juno is not really going to make a dent in the 2 million coffers of the web. Everybody's like, I'm going out and taking this 500 Juno. Like nobody cares. Like, it's fine. Just vote no. It's fine. Like it's no big deal. Just vote no if you want to vote no. You don't have to. You're not making a statement so much with the no with veto here.
Well, I think there's like already almost 40% of the tokens voted. So even if like everyone else who voted no or yes, I think they would still get vetoed, right? Because it's only like
Probably.
what 20%.
33. It's 33%. I think we were just talking about this, right? 33%, not including the abstains, right? 30% of total, or 33% of total with the abstains.
I think
If
it's
it hits
with the
33%.
abstains. I think the
Yeah, with
original
the
design
abstains.
was supposed to be without the abstains, but it was implemented differently.
Right.
And once again, Jabby, our favorite pedantic detail person, pulled a well actually
Right.
by looking at the code and then going back to the SDK, and I think raising an issue and going, hang on a minute, which one's wrong, the documentation or the code? And
Well, I think, and then Sonny came back and said that they did mean it that to be 30%, including the abstain. So I think that's
yeah, so it was
maybe they
so
came back and said
ostensibly the code was right and the documentation was wrong, and so I
Right.
think Jabby then went and raised a documentation PR on Cosmos to change it so that it is actually what it says it is.
Jabby
Quick
does
apology.
definitely dot the i's and cross the t's. Like he's the Cosmos notarator.
Yeah, he's speedrun papers, please. Do you know what I mean? Like he.
And quick apologies to both Shane and Sisla for us bringing it back to Juno Proposition
Oh,
1617. This conversation always comes back to this. It always comes back.
I can't wait.
I mean,
for this
I
video.
can't believe
just
you
wanna
guys are
move
doing
on.
a podcast with like all the stuff going on. It's crazy.
Yeah.
How you guys manage your
Oh my
time.
goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
And that too,
the thing
Consist-
is, we would do this anyway. Like we would just talk anyway. So why not like just talk with the little light turned on instead of turned off?
That's right. The lights on. That's right. You're right.
I think that was actually Noel's original pitch of this podcast. Was like
That was my pitch for the podcast. I'm like, well, we talk shit all the time anyway. Let's not just like record it and let people watch us talk shit.
That's right.
well,
Except
that's
something
what,
like that.
yeah,
But,
that's what,
Except somehow today you're wearing a collared shirt, so you've kind of classed it up a little bit. I don't understand what's going on. I thought we had an agreement on no collared shirts, and you have a collared shirt on with a data center background. Is that Shane and Sisla here? Is that why you classed it up?
So I'm actually in a room that entire wall's a mirror. And
Oh, really?
if I didn't put something in there was
Yeah.
a lot of weird stuff going on.
Feedback.
So I just
Is
like,
it worse than this with a bug light on my half of my face? Is it worse than that?
man,
It has to be.
your view there
It's
is
bad.
almost
It's bad.
artistic. I quite
It's
like
bad.
it.
Is it?
It kind of looks like it's going to go kind of dueling banjos at any time there, Usurper. So,
I'm in that region.
so you know you want to be careful.
in that
I
region,
know
yep.
precisely one thing about that, and that's that film. So
Not quite in that region, but close. Yeah.
So anyway, we're at 90 minutes. We should
Let's
wrap
do
it
it.
up. Thank you so much to Blockchain and Sisler for coming on. We've really enjoyed having you here, and I think we got out nutted out some pretty good conversation about some ideas and where we're headed. So thank you very much for coming. We appreciate
thanks
it a
for
lot.
bearing with us.
We should do this again too, because this is a great conversation. We've only scratched the surface on this, and this is a very